Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you this afternoon to one of our Quantum VirtualQ NAB sessions. This should prove to be a really good session, really excited for it. What we're going to be covering today is remote collaborative production with IPV and StoreNext. And today we're lucky enough to have with us from IPV, Alex Ferris, who is Director of Solution Engineering at IPV, and he'll be sharing quite a bit of information. Also, Ewan Johnston, who is Senior Vice President of Worldwide Sales with IPV, and also our Quantum's own Everett Ward, Technical Marketing Engineer with at least a couple of decades experience and focus on the media and entertainment industry. And I'm Jessica Eiler, one of Quantum's product marketing managers, and I'd like to welcome everybody to this session today. You know, we have between IPV and Quantum many customers. IPV, of course, is a leader in video asset management and has been improving remote editing workflows, which has obviously become critical for video production teams who are finding themselves doing this work from their home offices, which are now turned, their, home studios, if you will. And because of Quantum's ongoing attention to the media and entertainment industry, we have enjoyed a long-time partnership with IPV. And so, as a result, we also share many customers. So with that, wanted to ask Alex and Ewan a little bit, some questions such as, what kind of changes have you seen over the last 8 weeks or so that we are all, globally finding ourselves in these situations, and how is that affecting video workflows and challenges with them?
Sure. Thank you very much, Jessica. Thank you, everybody, as well, for joining. It's great to have the opportunity to speak to you. So, yeah, what changes have we seen? Well, pretty drastic changes, as you'd expect. The recent events, I guess, have focused our customers and other media organizations on the problem of creating content, essentially, when their teams become suddenly distributed. We work with distributed media teams quite regularly, but the recent events are certainly more extreme than we would normally see. So you've mentioned people confined to their homes, slower internet connections, combined with the increased load on public internet in general, when, instead of my kids doing their homework, they're watching Netflix all day, makes for a very, very challenging environment for media production. So people we've been talking to, they've been looking and still are for solutions as a matter of priority. And in most cases too, we can say that these challenges accelerate existing long-term projects to focus specifically on getting remote teams working. They seem to always have one eye on, the further reaching efficiencies of video asset management, as you say. People want to make sure any investment they make now is not wasted 3 to 6 months down the line when, the working environment could change again.
Thank you.
Okay. Question for Alex and Ewan. What happens if you rely on creating fresh or new or even live content for clients?
When you're creating new and live content, that's very, very difficult. Obviously, sports and other live events are the obvious ones there for those big events. They have huge market and consumer appeal, massive brand value, you can say, for the shows and leagues and so on, as well as the players, that are playing those sport games. Associated advertising and sponsorship revenue that goes with those live events is all impacted, which is a huge strain, on our customers and other broadcasters especially. It's not just those industries, though, that are impacted, we found, in the way that they create content. Any production, really, that requires travel or groups of people has been impacted, and that, in fact, affects all content creators. So people we're talking to, they're seeing this as an opportunity, really, to partner up with other methods of viewer engagement. We've seen previous studio-based shows being recorded from people's homes, a lot like we're doing today. And they're adopting technologies like second screen and so on for voting on previous favorite episodes and highlights and so on. When you get into that type of workflow, they're things that require really effective archive monetization workflows. So big archives of content, people need to start using the stuff they've already got, basically, to engage those viewers. And our customers are saying that that investment they've made in rich metadata to help them actually search through that archive of content is proving now to be a very valuable investment. We've got an ethos really that says if you can't find something, why bother storing it? And Curator, the platform we're going to demonstrate later, certainly addresses those challenges. From our perspective as well, in terms of the data that we analyze based on how customers use our technology, we did see an overall drop, to be honest, in creative productivity across the first few weeks of working from home. And then around a month ago, that trend seemed to reverse, and we saw a big increase in the use of specifically content discovery and archive search tools. So from a Curator perspective, that's great. People are using our technology and realizing those benefits that it brings. And that shows that organizations are shifting their focus to repurposing archived content and really making the most of what they already have.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, thanks, Alex. So how does the traditional video technology and architecture add to these challenges for remote working, in your opinion about this?
So yeah, traditional video technology, as you say, there's been huge leaps across the industry from a tech perspective, both at the server side, and the client side over the last decade or so to enable really effective and massive distribution of video to consumers. Things like just the devices we're all carrying in our pockets, adaptive bitrate streaming, global load balancing and cloud solutions, even things like recommendation algorithms. It's all about getting content in front of people. But when it comes to actually producing, high value production content, it uncovers a whole bunch of other problems when you're working with those high resolution assets. It's high level things like security, losing control of valuable content and not knowing where they're being used, or work in progress assets have massive implications for those content owners. And at a very high level, just simply giving access to the files to the remote workers can be very, very challenging. Video, by its nature, is very large, especially the high def stuff that we're all used to watching now, and moving it around is very challenging even at the best of times. So with this sudden spike in traffic we've seen in the last month, it becomes even more challenging. Something that you guys will appreciate as well is giving access to on-premise storage. Essentially, people have very large archives of content on-prem, and people use things traditionally like VPN to connect into on-premise systems, but they're not really up to the job for delivering 4K, 8K video file to somebody's home computer. So just the basic ability to find content and not having access to the most traditional edit bays and fiber connected technology makes it very difficult. So from a tech perspective, that's kind of the challenges we've been seeing.
Okay. Yeah, we talked to a customer the other day talking about VPN access and how they just exploded in there. They typically have onesies and twosies, and that just turned into this massive explosion for VPN access because everybody needed it. Oh, well, I got one last question, Alex, real quick. So now that the immediate challenges are solved, so what's next for you guys? How can IPV and Quantum move customers forward? What do you see as a more highly closer collaboration?
That's a great question. We've been in this situation a couple of months now, so the immediate challenges have been solved in some cases. And they start with that hierarchy of needs, if you like, that we talked about, providing access to the content and access to editing platforms. So that's meant for some people, the way they've solved those immediate challenges was having people take hard drives home with them, and an editing HP Z8 under their arm. That solves the first two challenges, but what's the next step? People have realized now that that's not a scalable or future-proof solution should this kind of working environment continue. They're thinking, what happens when the content runs out, or what happens when new editors are brought on board? You know, we've spoken to people literally driving hard drives around and leaving them on people's doorsteps with extremely high value content on. So there have been things around a while to kind of help solve this from the video perspective. Things like remote desktop, sometimes, you know, PC over IP, that gives people the ability to connect to a remote edit station. And a lot of people have adopted these technologies as a quick solution to those access problems, but they're telling us it doesn't respond well to storage and scale. You know, there's usually a one-to-one relationship to the remote machine and the editors that are working on them, which means you can't add to the editorial team very easily. You can't work with as many freelancers perhaps as you normally would. You know, there's concerns that those expedited solutions, whilst effective, I guess, for the base requirements, will potentially be a wasted investment or a limited, you know, infrastructure without the management features of a video asset management layer. So in terms of next steps for what we can do alongside Quantum to complement the solutions to those initial challenges, it's about putting something alongside that quick fix, if you like, to provide a more scalable and future-proof solution that allows people to use their huge quantum archives on premise alongside the editorial tool sets without needing to let media leave the building, so to speak.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I definitely think that, you know, we've got a good relationship anyway. We've done a lot of work together. I think it appears that we're going to be doing a lot more together. So that's great. Jessica, I hogged all the questions, so I think I'll stop.
Oh, no, I think
you.
I'm engaged listening. And thank you very much, Alex. So I know our audience is definitely keen to hear how IPV is, you know, helping to facilitate the workflow and productivity in today's world, you know, that's relying on, you know, remote access like we never have before. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Maybe show us a little bit how IPV is helping to do that. I think you might have some visual aids that.
Yeah, absolutely. I've come prepared. You'll be glad to hear.
That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I love that image. It's great.
Let me share my screen for you. Here we go. So hopefully you can see. I'm going to do a very quick PowerPoint to kind of explain what we do to solve some of these problems.
Oh, thank you.
And then we're going to actually run a demo of our remote editing solution. It'll probably take around 10 minutes in total, which we'll hand back to you guys.
Yeah, and you know, and then for the audience, if you have questions, you know, along the way, please go ahead and type them in through the question, you know, function through WebEx, and we'll hold a, you know, Q&A session at the end and address them at that time. So please, you know, do type in your questions as you see them, because I'm pretty sure Alex is going to be presenting a lot of information for you right now. Thanks.
That's right. Well, we're going to start quite high level. Hopefully you can see my screen. We're going to have a quick top-level overview of the Curator system, and then talk a little bit about how we enable the remote editorial workflows. You know, this webinar is about the remote production workflows. I'm actually going to take a bold step and do a live demo from my home computer here and my home Wi-Fi connection, working with content that's about 4,000 or 5,000 miles away from me. Then I'll show you how you can get an interactive demo of our technology if you want, and talk a little bit more about the architecture, as this is predominantly storage-based integration. We can look at how we complement each other as software and hardware vendors. Then I'll pass back to Everett. So let's take a quick look then and kind of get into it.
Great.
So how does Curator make remote editing possible? We've got kind of 5 key level messages we want to get across here. We let people ingest their high resolution video, which is massive in size, on their quantum storage platform. And we do things like request descriptive metadata, or generate technical metadata, or leverage AI services to help people find that content using a variety of tools. So the first step for our system is to basically index and bring in all that high value, high resolution content. As part of that process, we create a proxy, an IPV proxy, which sits around 2% the size of the high resolution file. So when you're looking at hybrid type architectures, and that's one way we can achieve global remote editorial workflows,
Mm-hmm.
you can imagine the smaller storage requirement you have for that cloud storage. You can keep all your on-prem stuff on your quantum devices and just send 2% of it up, basically. You get every frame of every video on your system available through this streaming proxy approach. Once that's been registered, those proxies are visible in web tools for things like content annotation, or for searching and building project bins. We use the term search. I prefer the word find, because if you say I spent all day searching, it's generally not a good thing. So we say spend 5 seconds searching and then find something. So it's all about finding those relevant and valuable assets, which takes us back to that archive monetization kind of use case we spoke about earlier.
Right.
As well as the web tools, we provide access to this search layer and this library of content directly inside Adobe Premiere using our Curator for Adobe panel, which gives streaming access to all of these proxy files that we've been talking about. I'll show you that in a moment. Before that, though, we can talk about remote conform. So this is a huge time saver, massive plus for the security and InfoSec policies that our customers have in place. A bunch of our shared customers, actually, Jessica, are in the government and aerospace kind of fields and have massive security requirements, as do the movie studios out on the West Coast and so on. What this means is the proxies that you edit with in Premiere, and these are streaming proxies, it's not connected storage for home system, you can render high resolution content where it actually exists. So the request to create new high res from your edit is sent to your on-premise quantum infrastructure, essentially, where an IPV server can access the high res and generate that final deliverable. So that's a high level kind of description of how Curator's technology allows you to access all of that great stuff you've got stored in your archives. We do that then within Premiere. So a little bit on that, and then I'll show you a demo. So normal Premiere install, bring your own device, bring your own application. It's not a remote desktop into a higher powered graphics server, although you can use that approach too, if you want to. But our panel there in the top left of the Premiere window, you can see gives a really nice user experience, and we'll go into that. But it gives the editor the ability to discover and preview and import those video assets. It uses those frame accurate proxies, so any edit decisions you make, are guaranteed to match when you render from the high res. We also can pre-build project bins and template project structures using our web tools. So it looks quite similar from a user experience to what you'll see in Premiere, but is accessible over a browser as well. And you can utilize cloud storage, as we said. So I could create a production here on my computer, check it into our Curator system, and then Ewan, wherever he is, or somebody somewhere else around the world, will immediately be able to check that out in their Premiere and see all my edits. No need to download the media, no need to connect to any storage device to do that, and to collaborate and review and so on with colleagues in real time around the world. So that is the PowerPoint. That bit's over. I'm going to jump into a live demo now. All right, so hopefully I've reshared that. You can see a Premiere window here with the login screen as the Curator panel. So as I said, Curator is a multi-user, multi-group system, but each customer will have their own secure environment. It's not multi-tenanted in that our customers share access to the same system. It's a deliverable software solution. It can be hosted on-prem as well, which basically means I can log in as an editor and I can start looking through my library of content. Now remember, I'm just at home. I have no VPN connectivity to an on-premise infrastructure. I have no connectivity to any video files. What I have is connectivity into a Curator service, and that can present storage devices to me in the form of this virtual folder structure down the left-hand side. And it will also present media assets as well within it. So for example, if I select a folder, I can start previewing the content from these 2% streaming proxies. I'm just going to undock this panel to give you a better sense of the user experience. Now you can imagine normally what we do is have this open on one monitor, and you've basically got this great window into this archive of content. Some of our customers have 30 to 40 million assets in their Curator systems, and you have access to every single frame of every single asset, even if the high res has been archived to an offline quantum storage solution. So anyway, the editing can come in here, select a folder, they can preview scene change across the hover scrub thumbnails, which hopefully you can see refreshing across my screen there.
Yeah.
And when they want to preview an asset, they can simply double click it. And this will load a streaming proxy into the Curator panel itself. So we haven't even need to import the asset into our Premiere project. I can use IPV streaming technology to jump to any point in that timeline without the need to download or buffer or any of that stuff. We have great video control, scene change detection, timecode seek, multiple audio, up to 32 channels available in our streaming proxy, and frame step, all timecode and frame accurately matched to the high res, which is obviously very important. Now, if I wanted to actually use that in my project, I'm going to redock this now. I simply have to import it. However, I want to show something really cool as well. This showed me navigating a folder structure. If your users aren't familiar with that, it can be quite difficult to find content. So Curator allows you to switch that view to this faceted style of search. Now, this is where we talk about finding rather than searching. So I can actually drill down into specific types of content based on metadata. And it can be descriptive like this, or it could be conceptual, like the status of an asset, or when it was ingested or something like that. And of course, we can leverage AI generated metadata here as well. So let's say I wanted to import this into the system. I could simply right click and say import, and it converts that proxy stream that we were watching in the panel into an item directly in my Premiere source monitor. So now as I play through, this is a streaming proxy coming from about 4,000 miles away over my home Wi-Fi into my Premiere application, and I again can jump to any point in that timeline. Really great experience. So it's super useful for finding video content and previewing it and bringing it in.
Right.
We can also switch the views here as well to show metadata about the assets too. We can extract technical metadata about it, apply descriptive or conceptual metadata fields. That's really, really cool. Another great feature I quickly want to show you before we run out of time is the project management aspect of the system. So we don't just support video assets and audio and image and all the traditional kind of media. We support projects as well, and that means we can actually start working with Premiere projects. And now I can see there's a bunch of jobs waiting for me. Some are already in progress. And what's really cool, and if there's any editors watching, I'm sure you'll appreciate this, I can actually preview through the Curator platform the Premiere bin structure of this project without needing connectivity to the physical PR proj or connectivity to the storage device that at one point it was taking. The project is now saved virtually within the Curator system, and I can select sequences or assets and actually bring them into my project itself. Alternatively, I could actually check out a project. So I could look at this one here. There's some stuff in here. I'm going to choose to check that out. And what that is going to do is basically convert that Premiere project into a project I'm working on. And the proxy streams there immediately load up into my sequence, and I can start continuing my edit, whatever that might be. So I can tidy up this thing here. I could bring in additional content, for example. Let's bring that flowers back in as we're working on a new project now. And of course, I can start to add these clips into my edit. Now, all of this stuff is fully searchable as well. I could search for flowers and shoelaces or whatever. The cool thing is I can actually leverage all of Adobe's editorial capabilities. So I can do things like stack clips, I can apply effects and fades, all that kind of cool stuff that you would get on a traditional high-res edit. We can use plugins. What's great now then is when I've finished with my edit, I can simply choose to export that from my home. But I don't have access to the video content, so how do I create high-res content? It's somewhere in my quantum storage system 4,000 miles away. What I can do is actually choose the sequence I want to export, so fit this promo here. I can choose a destination. Now, this is a conceptual destination. It can say send to review or publish to client or move to playout or something like that. I'm going to choose to generate high resolution content, and I'll do it remotely. So I simply press next. It's asking me to enter in some metadata to help catalog the content I'm producing. In this case, we'll say it's some, standard format sports content. I'm simply going to say send it. I'll add a comment as well. Added the flowers. That was what I did. I'm going to send that to export. Now, really simply, what's happening there is my laptop isn't doing any conforming. We're actually generating high-res content now, and we'll get feedback in the form of email alerts and progress dashboards. There's all that stuff kind of in the background to help monitor it. But we're already generating the content back 4,000 miles away where we're connected to that quantum system. From there, it can automate delivery. It can push it to a review and approve process using our web tools. But really, really simple way for an editor to start working and provide more than those initial solutions that have been put in place to continue working remotely.
We have a couple questions too, Alex, before you completely pass back to Jessica after we had talked. So let's talk. Jessica, I'll take the first one. Then, what is the Curator version with action for you that you're using right now in the demo?
What is the Curator version?
Yeah.
So we have two kind of levels for Curator. We have a 100% cloud model called Curator Now, and we have a full Curator system, if you like. They're both the same software, and the Curator Now is a rapid deployment model. But it's, Curator, the specific version number I'm using is 2.4, if it's somebody that knows about Curator versions. I don't know if that's the information you were looking for.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. And then the last one just popped in here. So you're able to track any change to edits by who did them. And you store what's been changed if you wanted to.
Good question. And I can, it's not too much of it to show that. Absolutely. I've checked in that project now, and that will be tracked. If I look at that, try to check that out again, we can see the different versions that previously existed. So there was one from 6 hours ago. Somebody did some stuff. I then checked it 2 minutes ago, and you can see I added the flowers there. That was the note. Now, if somebody sees that and goes, "Oh man, why did he add the flowers? Flowers suck," they can always go back to a previous version and check that out and continue working. But yes, it's all tracked. We know who checked it in, and we always know who's working on the content as well, or rather your system does, if you want to get that data out of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's cool. All right.
All right, I don't know if we have time. I was going to talk the architecture, but maybe just very quickly, I'll skip.
Oh, you help yourself, Alex, honestly. You work fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll show you this. The effort of cutting and pasting it into my presentation. So you can try it yourself. Go to this website and you can sign up for a free walkthrough trial of our web-based application Clip Link, and you'll get a sense of the proxy streaming technology and stuff like that. One more slide. The architecture, again, sort of quite technical diagram, but it's just highlighting really where we intersect with quantum, which is what I wanted to show. We have a cloud component in the top here, and that can range in scale from a single instance, as we call it, the server icons there, for a smaller system, up to 4 or 5 or 6 or however many to match the required throughput. We leverage other services within the cloud. AWS is this example, but we support Azure and Google platform as well. The quantum integration would be seen in the lower section, which is the on-premise network we talked about, where you've got petabytes of content and you want people to access it as a remote user. So on the left there, that's me sat at home. Doesn't look like that, but that's me in my house in Premiere, connecting in and leveraging that content without needing to make that connection to the storage. Our platform here will then be instructed to do things like create the new high-res asset by connecting directly to the quantum storage hierarchy.
Again, this is kind of a generic reference architecture, but it applies to essentially whatever you have on-prem, it would show up. We have multiple. There we go. Thank you, Jessica. So on the previous diagram that Alex was talking about, so if you drilled into the quantum piece that was in the diagram, we have a number of options that we would where we'd fit in there, what we could actually do. So we have some offline, tape storage that we could use. We have the object storage that we would use. We also have the ability to into the cloud using the three major players. And, the multiple online storage that you'd have in the facility. We could go anywhere from spinners to NVMe to, anything that you would want to use for on-prem, and all that's accessible through the remote with IPV. So this is kind of just really pretty much it. Alex, I just wanted to kind of highlight a little bit of what we do behind the scenes there on-prem. And I think that's really it for today, Jessica.
There was one other question I've just spotted that I'm happy to answer, which was a question about how one would access the high resolution that's created through that remote console. That can be done through a number of ways. It can be offered as an automated delivery on the kind of the back end of the export process, or it could be sent through a download link or something like that from one of our web applications. So sorry to interrupt, I just wanted to make sure I answered that one.
No, that's good. I'm glad you jumped on that one. I just saw it come up a second ago. So good. All right, Jessica.
Very good. And again, just opening it up for any additional questions. This is your time to take advantage of, Alex present to ask him or Everett as well on the StarNext side.
Okay. Well, Ewan, we really wanted to hear you tonight.
Did want to hear you.
We're sorry we can't, but next time. Alex, thanks a lot for the demo. It was a very good demo. I was actually kind of impressed. I think we'll have to have a conversation next week about my lab.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you both very much. Very much appreciate it. And if anybody does have questions, please feel free, and it's at a later time that you think of questions, still reach out to your quantum sales team, and they will funnel the questions to us, and we'll bring in IPV to answer the IPV questions, and we'll, get you taken care of.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for the opportunity to present it.
Yeah.
I hope you all enjoyed it.
Yes, we did.
Talking to it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.